Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Exploring the Brain webinar series here at Kennedy Krieger. I'm Linda Cameron, the Vice President of Philanthropy here at Kennedy Krieger Institute, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the Institute and today's program, and then turn it over to our presenters. At Kennedy Krieger, we're celebrating our 85th year. And as many of you know, we're a nationally and internationally known and deeply respected resource. We are the leader in care, education, and research for kids and young adults with neurological diseases, disorders, and injury. Essentially anything related to the brain, the spinal cord, nerve, and muscle. So I'm talking about conditions that collectively affect 1 out of every 6 children. Our expertise here at Kennedy Krieger covers something as common as autism and as complex as a leukodystrophy or other neurogenetic syndromes such as Rett syndrome, Sturge-Weber, Down, for example. We are also experts in trauma-informed care, as traumatic stress also adversely affects the developing brain. We're also experts in specialized education for children with intellectual and developmental disabilities, medical complexities, psychiatric and behavioral challenges as well. So each year here at Kennedy Krieger, we see 25,000 unique patients and students in our inpatient rehabilitation hospital and in our 90+ outpatient clinical programs, as well as our schools. Kennedy Krieger has a long history of providing special education services. Our first classrooms, in fact, opened 45 years ago, serving students on the 2nd floor of our hospital here at 707. We now serve over 500 students with complex special education needs in 4, soon to be 5 schools here in Maryland. All of our schools are focused on students' achievement during their years in school, as well as when they enter adulthood, finding employment and their place in the community. And although we offer special education in highly specialized settings, our focus is really the inclusion for life for all of our students. So this focus has naturally led us to the provision of services for adults with disabilities. You'll learn more about that right now as part of our featured topic, Neurodiversity at Work. I am now pleased to introduce Stacy Herman, our Associate Vice President and Director of our Neurodiversity at Work program. Stacy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Linda. We're happy to be here with you today. I've taken a quick look at who's attending. It's nice to see some people who are in our community, our families, business partners, our colleagues, and others new who are here today. And we're looking forward to sharing with you about neurodiversity at work at Kennedy Krieger Institute, and also the progress we have made and the growth we've had over the last several years. Just a few housekeeping pieces is that if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put that in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Currently, you are muted and your camera is off, so you don't need to worry about any of that. We have that covered for you. And then if you would like closed captioning, you could see the visual on the screen on your bottom bar. You can have live transcript and you can change that to show subtitles. That'll allow you to have captioning throughout the presentation. So let me quickly introduce our team members here today that are part of our Neurodiversity at Work team. So as Linda mentioned, I am Stacy Herman. I am the Assistant Vice President of Neurodiversity and Community Workforce Development. We have Dr. Becca Colangelo, who is our Assistant Director of Meaningful Community Services. We also have Tina Schmidt, who is our Director of Talent Acquisition. We have Tamara Goldsmith, who is our Neurodiversity at Work Project Coordinator. We have Mark Butler, our Admissions and Compliance Manager. Then we have Tyler Shalou, who is currently a Kennedy Krieger employee and also a Core Foundation's community member. And you could see a picture on the screen there of our many other team members as part of Neurodiversity at Work. So I'm going to ask all the panelists, you can now turn your cameras off until it is your turn to join us.
Stacy, thanks for that introduction. Getting started here, can you define neurodiversity?
Yeah, so at Kennedy Krieger Institute, we define neurodiversity as a broad range of neurological difference that endow an individual with unique skills, talents, and perspectives. This doesn't just include individuals with autism, it includes other neurological differences, dyslexia, ADHD, and many others. And when you really break down that word neuro, we're talking about the brain, diversity, which is differences of the brain. We want to embrace and respect those differences. We want to think about it as it supports equity, diversity, and inclusion. And it's not just in the workplace or at home, but it's in the community. It's in all aspects of a meaningful life. Thanks for your question, Mark.
Absolutely. Moving forward, more specifically, what is neurodiversity at work here at Kennedy Krieger Institute?
So neurodiversity at work at Kennedy Krieger Institute takes a multifaceted approach to hiring and retaining individuals of all abilities as part of the workforce, and also focusing on community engagement. We do this through a collective impact model. So we're really looking at bringing together partners and collaborators throughout the state and nationally, looking at the challenge of employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities, and how do we come together to solve that challenge and work in collaboration, doing it together, coming up with solutions that make an impact. We focus on meaningful employment, community engagement. We look at this as an economic benefit to Maryland, thinking about having employees of all abilities as part of their workforce. We do this as a person-centered collaborative, thinking about the person with a disability, the job seeker, what is their goals, what are they looking for in their future, and focusing on the person and the team around that person. And it's all aspects of life, as I just mentioned in our definition: home, workplace, and community. We do this through several different programs, and you're going to hear about all those programs throughout our presentation today. We are really focused on an interdisciplinary approach. And I know that that is our mission at Kennedy Krieger Institute. Our Neurodiversity at Work program is about 5 years old, and it is no different. We get to work with partners across the Institute, partners across the state, people we support, their families, and then also thinking about all the direct service partners that we work with, like school programs, and our marketing team, and people on the go, and the Maryland Center for Developmental Disabilities. So when we say this is a true interdisciplinary approach, it is a true approach at bringing a team together to support a young adult as they transition into adulthood and then continue their journey in adulthood. And we're going to show you a brief video just to give you an overview of who we are and what our business partners that we work with have to say. Kennedy Krieger Institute empowers employers to build a dynamic workforce, increasing employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities by providing training and resources. We believe in the collective impact mindset, knowing that together we can identify the challenges and work in collaboration to determine and execute solutions.
Being an inclusive employer means to have an inclusive environment. And when you have a safe place for your employees to come to work, they come to work and they feel recognized. There's a sense of belonging. And in return, what happens is that you have increased creative engagement, you have increased productivity, and at the end of the day, you have a better product to sell. Those are the ingredients that you need for a successful recipe in no matter what industry, no matter what business.
We've participated with the Neurodiversity at Work program over the past 5 years. It has been a wonderful experience. We've actually hired one of the Neurodiversity at Work interns onto our team. We just saw his level of dedication. We just saw how well he fit within our team, and we knew that he would be great for the staff as well as for the patients. Every company wants an employee who is dedicated, who is loyal, who takes pride in their work. You have all of the components of quality and meaningful employment.
For the nursing department, the individuals helped us tremendously. They're very dependable. They take pride in what they do, and you can rely on them. They're able to sit and screen individuals, the patients, the visitors, and staff as they come on site.
We're fortunate enough to have Kennedy Krieger's Project Search and Core Foundations right on site with us. And they've really had a tremendous impact on both our business and the lives of the patients and families that we serve.
Neurodiversity at work contributes to our productivity. Everybody has a place in this world. This effort works, and putting in the time definitely contributes to a better future.
Thanks for talking about neurodiversity at work, Stacy. Next up, Becca, can you tell us about our Project Search program?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Becca Colangelo, the Assistant Director of Meaningful Community Services. And Project Search is a very wonderful program that is internationally known. So a little bit of history on Project Search. It was actually founded out of Cincinnati Children's Hospital. So the founders there, Susie and Aaron, recognized the need for a workforce training program for young adults with disabilities to give them that workplace experience that would allow them to be successful in any type of work environment. So Project Search started out very small and now has sites not only across the United States, but also in Canada and Europe. And I believe they are stretching their reach even farther from those countries. But here in Maryland, there are 14 Project Search sites that kind of span across the entire state, from sites on the Eastern Shore, sites in PG County and Montgomery County, and here in the Baltimore area. So the Project Search site here at Kennedy Krieger got started about 5 years ago. And it is a 10-month workforce training program here on the Baltimore campus. And what's really great is that the Project Search interns come to work each day and get to learn from all of the great experience that the Kennedy Krieger departments, therapists, clinicians have to offer. So it is a 10-month training program because it does involve some of the students from Kennedy Krieger High School as well. So Linda had touched on Kennedy Krieger school programs in her introduction. And this is a great way to show the continuum of services that Kennedy Krieger provides for their students and patients as well. So each of the interns participates in 3 different internship rotations throughout their Project Search year. And we work with lots of different departments and kind of like to categorize the 3 types of work into clinical work. So we have individuals who are helping to reconcile bank statements and making sure that all the cash receipts are submitted with finance, to individuals in behavioral psych who are working to input patient data, helping to sort different forms that need to be sent home with families. We also have, in addition to that, those administrative type tasks, very customer service oriented tasks. And you saw that a little bit in the video with Nia, who was talking about the work that's done in what's affectionately called the Spine Center, but the International Center for Spinal Cord Injuries. So the customer service internships look a lot like helping therapists during sessions. And that might be anything from, standing near a patient who's doing a walking test to playing games with the patients. There are some video games involved with the customer service aspect, which are always coveted. And also working with security. That's a big part of customer service, our interns who work with security, greeting visitors and patients that are coming onto campus each day. And then the other type of tasks really focus on those environmental services. So not only having individuals who are helping to keep Kennedy Krieger clean by working with our infection control team. We've been lucky enough to have individuals as health screeners, making sure that everyone who's coming through the doors at Kennedy Krieger is kind of up to code with our COVID-19 protocols here on campus, but also individuals who are helping our facilities team, in the inventory storeroom, making sure that they're picking orders and delivering them around campus. So it is a really great way for individuals who may have not had that much workplace experience to see what are some things that they really like to do and what are some things that they don't like to do, because that's an important part of work, is making sure that you still get done all of those things on your list that you may not want to do. But ultimately, our goal for each of the interns is that they exit project search ready for competitive integrated employment. And in our eyes, that's kind of part-time work or better. In addition to making sure that they secure minimum wage or more as well.
Thanks, Becca. The Project Search program definitely sounds like a great opportunity for those interested in employment. Can you speak a little bit about Core Foundations programming?
Sure. So Core Foundations is our DDA licensed adult service provider. And to break down some of these acronyms that you see on the screen here, DDA stands for Developmental Disabilities Administration. So they are the agency at Maryland that provides some longer term funding for individuals with disabilities. So at Core Foundations, we are able to provide those services that are listed on the screen. So starting with employment services, that typically looks like what you would imagine an individual goes through to find a job. So for job development, we are working with individuals to update their resumes, make sure that they're filling out applications, helping to prepare them for interviews. And then once an individual obtains employment, that's where we are able to provide some of those ongoing job supports and follow along job supports. So ongoing is exactly what it sounds like. We are checking in with an individual on an ongoing basis. We may not necessarily be right there with them, but we're calling them, we're FaceTiming with them, and we're definitely being there in person with them a couple times each month. Whereas follow along employment services are more of those kind of dedicated, not necessarily one-to-one supports, but a close proximity. So we are nearby to the individual at work, maybe to help with focus, help to get, make sure that an individual is staying on task or following a schedule. And I know that Tyler is going to talk a little bit more about his employment experience. So in addition to that, we also do have nursing support services and behavioral support services. Both of these are services to help individuals who may have some more complex needs. Specifically with behavioral support services, you can see that there is a dedicated outline of services that we provide, including the assessment plan and consultation with our licensed behavioral psychologist, who is a part of our team. And she works very closely with our staff members to support those, to implement those behavioral support services in a community setting. And before I jump to talking too much about community development services, I do also want to mention that we are able to provide services through DOORS. So DOORS stands for the Division of Rehabilitation Services. And DOORS's model really is to help individuals find employment on a short-term basis. So DOORS funding is really helpful for individuals who are exiting high school and looking, might be a little bit young for DDA services, or might be looking for something different than DDA services, DOORS can help bridge that gap. But thinking about our CDS services or community development services, you can see on this slide kind of the different types of tasks that we are working on with individuals who are in our community development services. So one to really highlight is volunteer opportunities. Every one of the individuals in our CDS services has at least one volunteer opportunity scheduled in their week. We hope for always 2 or 3 or one potentially every day. But the volunteer opportunities really allow them to practice some of those professionalism skills and also are an avenue that can lead to employment. So in addition to volunteering, we also focus on some health and wellness and travel training so that our community members are more confident getting out in the community and navigating some of those very, very challenging and very confusing travel methods that we have. And we also focus on independent living skills and community integration. And all of this is in a person-centered approach. So the individuals themselves are coming up with their goals and working very closely with our staff and our coordinators to make sure that the activities that are planned out each day are showing progress towards making those goals. And so now I think we're going to turn it over to Tyler.
Yes, Tyler, as a former Project Search intern and current Core Foundations community member, can you talk about your experience in Project Search and in Core Foundations?
Well, thank you, Mark, for the question. It's a really great one. I'll just start by saying when I first started Project Search, it was quoted from one of these famous stories, A Tale of Two Cities. The good part, in other words, there's good and bad to it. The good part is learning to, because I was graduating high school at the Maryland School for the Blind at the time of my visual impairment. So the good news was for me to explore what it's like to be in a professional job setting. But then the bad news came when the COVID-19 pandemic just shut down our lives in a way we never thought of. And for me joining Project Search, I had no idea what it was going to look like. At first, my services started completely virtual. I had to hop on Zoom sessions almost every day. It was nowhere near the same as seeing people face to face. So that was obviously a challenge. But then the good news came about when I learned that I would be getting an internship experience in person, face to face, through the Green Spring campus in the security department. And that was a huge plus for me, because not only did I like being face to face with people and having that kind of interaction, I also got to explore one of my big career interests, which is security and emergency preparedness. So that was a very good experience. But then after 2 rounds of security, I then moved and to work at a customer service oriented assistant for a business partner called Training and E-Tracking Solutions. I did that for the 3rd round of Project Search and continued that into my first year of Core Foundations. That was a little bit challenging, because I was able to interact well with my supervisor and stuff, but sometimes I had hurdles when it comes to me not being paid correctly, not being paid on time, or what issues payroll, just making sure I I get what I deserve because I'm investing my time into doing something, and I felt like I deserved to be compensated. So that was definitely a hurdle. But then the good news came about when Core Foundations introduced me and recommended that I possibly pursue a short-term job here at Kennedy Krieger Institute, where I where I where I applied and successfully obtained a position as a COVID-19 health screener. So as Becca highlighted a little bit earlier, like the COVID-19 screener is basically in charge of like ensuring that anyone who enters any of our buildings is is safe, like they're okay to come on campus, they're not exhibiting any COVID symptoms, or they haven't had any exposures or whatnot. Um, and that was a real plus for me because out of that, not only did I get support from Core Foundations, but I also got two other sort of similarly related opportunities. One was that a couple times throughout this current year, with my interest in emergency preparedness and security pretty high, I managed to be able to work with our safety director to help carry out 3 fire drills in our facility. So not only did I get to experience the COVID screening aspect and the essential functions of that job, but I also got to get a little bit more of a taste and what fire safety is like, kind of building upon what I did with security of Project Search. So I got to do a lot of that. But then the second opportunity came when they asked me, infection control came up and asked me and said, "You're doing a really good job. We want to see if you want to extend your hours." And I'm like, "Well, sure, why not?" But then came another problem where after the infection control was wondering if I could extend my hours each day, 5 days a week. The problem with that was, however, that at the time I was also taking community college classes. I currently take a speech class at Anne Arundel Community College, so that involves some very important advocacy skills by telling infection control, like, if you're able to negotiate, I can work 3 days a week, longer hours, but then the other 2 days a week, I can attend my classes. That's actually worked out really well. And then the last bit of my experience is just with transportation. I live in Anne Arundel County, which is like 40 minutes away from here. So I've been having to use a variety of transportation services like Lyft, Uber. There's this taxi access program through the Maryland Transit Administration, MTA for short. So just being able to rely on different modes of transportation has been a little bit of a struggle too. And then let me just say in conclusion that I feel like my experience with Project Search and Core Foundations has been a mixed bag. If you want to call it that, it's been a mixed bag of good and bad times. The one sad thing I will say to conclude is that my COVID screening position will end in about a week and a half, but I'm confident, I'm hopeful with me taking my college classes and getting continued support from Core Foundations that I will find something that will interest me and keep me going and hopefully lead up to one of my career goals. So that's all I got to say about my experiences for Project Search and Core Foundations for right now. And thank you again, Mark, for the question. I'll turn it back to you.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, Tyler. Such a great experience through both programs. My next question is for Tina Schmidt. I'd like to ask, what are some current employment trends for individuals with disabilities? Oh, Tina, unmute, please.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So the labor statistics currently are quite surprising. So right now, the Bureau of Labor Statistics estimates that only 19% of people with disabilities are employed. So that means 80% of one particular population in the United States is not currently working. And for those with autism, we know that this number is even higher due to the many challenges and barriers there are in the hiring process. Now, those of us that might be in HR or working for businesses, or quite frankly, all of us have probably noticed the talent shortage right now. And we're all too familiar that there are 11 million vacancies in the United States. So everyone's looking for talent, no matter who you are. So the fact that 80% of individuals with disabilities are out of the workforce, there is a major problem, and something that we should all be paying really, really close attention to at this time.
Absolutely. And to piggyback on that, what specifically is Kennedy Krieger doing to hire and retain individuals with disabilities as part of our workforce?
Yeah, it's extremely important to our bottom line. In order to be more inclusive to candidates and employees with disabilities, we've made so many changes in our hiring procedures. First and foremost, we took a look at our job descriptions because we realized very early on that many of our entry-level jobs required a high school diploma. And we sat on that for a second and we thought about it, and we realized how talented many of our high school students were. And these were high school students who weren't necessarily finishing high school with a diploma. They were finishing with a certificate of completion. But they were incredibly talented and very well qualified for many of our jobs. So that was the first thing we had to take a look at. The second thing was really examining our application and interview process, because it shouldn't be one size fits all. And that's how many organizations really look at their application process. So we took a look at that and we made significant changes in our typical screening process. This led us to the development of our HR Pathways Initiative. And what that is a way for candidates with disabilities that are open to self-disclosing up front and saying, hello, I'm a candidate. I'm very interested in employment with your organization, but I have a disability and I need some accommodations or an alternative interviewing and screening process. So we set up a meet and greet with the recruiter, and the recruiter is able to walk through a job matching process with candidates, which is super helpful. Because like I said earlier, 80% of people with disabilities are out of the workforce. So many of them may not have the required experience for the position or anything to really go off of to understand what jobs to even apply for. And then we modify the application and interview process, and we support through the entire process up into the offer stage. And our retention efforts really are successful, certainly because of our collaboration between our entire HR department and our provider core and project search teams, Stacy, Mark, Becca. I know you've heard a lot from Becca this morning. They truly have become an extension of our HR support in supporting the entire employment life cycle, supporting the supervisor, supporting the employee on site at work. And without the support and this full-blown collaboration between all of these parties, our retention efforts really wouldn't be that successful.
Absolutely. Thank you for that information, Tina.
Sure.
Tyler, this question's for you. As an employee of Kennedy Krieger Institute, how do you feel that the Institute did with supporting you?
I feel like the Institute has actually done an excellent job. I know I went into a little bit greater detail before, but I'll just highlight again that this team is incredible. Like, they're probably one of the best teams I work with, because without their support of the Institute, I don't know where else I would be. I mean, I have my parents, I have my family, I have my siblings, I have everyone else, but for the Institute to step in and help impact my life as an employee is just breathtaking. So I'm very happy for that. And I'll just highlight again how the Institute has helped me by just helping me explore and pursue my different interests. So with the COVID screening position, into my fire safety opportunities, and even as an employee on site, I also got to play the piano a couple times this year, the outpatients in the 801 Broadway facility. Like, I've done that a few times, and I feel like that's something that core foundations and my supervisor brought to my attention. They knew that I was really talented, so they invited me and to play a few times, and honestly, I'm very happy of that. So again, as I stated a while back, like, it's been good and bad, but good always prevails, and I'm very happy with everyone's support, and because it is an all hands on deck effort. Like, one party cannot function without the other. So I'm very grateful for everyone stepping in and doing what's right for everyone. So thank you to all our Kennedy Krieger employees, supervisors, and our business partners for all your dedication.
That's great, Tyler. It's so wonderful to hear you had such a great experience. My next question is for Stacy. Can you speak on how neurodiversity at work supports businesses on inclusive hiring, management, and retention strategies?
Thanks, Mark. Our Neurodiversity at Work program really learned early on that we can support young adults and adults with disabilities and provide job training, skills, experiences to obtain employment. But to really be able to have successful employment, we need to be working with our business community, our business partners, to be collaborative and provide hiring, retention, and management strategies. So over the last several years, we've provided over 50 trainings to organizations across Maryland and beyond, which some are listed here, to be able to really share about the importance of inclusive workplaces, barriers to employment, and strategies and processes and policies for an inclusive workforce. How do we break down the barriers? How do we think about maybe our unconscious bias? How do we manage a diverse workforce, which we already do now, right? All of our employees are different and have different needs. And we just need to think about how do we incorporate all within our workforce. So we are really lucky. We really enjoy getting out into the community, providing these trainings. Some businesses, we work on several trainings, being able to come back over and over again on different topics. We work with different board members, we work with managers, supervisors, and we continue to bring this awareness so we can have a more inclusive workforce, which will improve employment outcomes. You heard Tina say, 80% of individuals with disabilities are not currently part of the workforce. We need to change that. We can't just change that by training and providing experience for individuals with disabilities, but we have to work with our business community so that everyone has the opportunity to work and bring their talents and skills to the workplace. Here's just a list that you can see of all the different trainings that we do offer, but at the same time, we customize our trainings too to meet each business need. And 96% of individuals who've attended our training say that their knowledge has increased because they attended our training. So we want to keep sharing that.
Thank you, Stacy. Becca, this question is for you. How is Neurodiversity at Work at Kennedy Krieger Institute furthering the Institute's mission of research?
Yeah, so Kennedy Krieger Institute is a research institute, and our small department here at Neurodiversity at Work is continuing on that mission through 3 types of research avenues. So our first avenue is a collaboration with University of Maryland. So University of Maryland actually approached us about some video-based instruction and virtual reality research that they are working to get off the ground in the next year. So in that, both the video-based instruction and the virtual reality would be a collaboration of our staff working with University of Maryland researchers to explore what type of workplace supports that we can put in on an individual basis and also on a more universal basis to help individuals with disabilities succeed. So it's very interesting that their research, their mission falls right in line with some of our long-term goals as well. The next research avenue that we have is with Project Search National. So I had mentioned that Project Search got started out at Cincinnati Children's Hospital. And so there is a very extensive Project Search network, which is great to be a part of. And so not only is there a team of researchers at Project Search that works closely with all of the sites to be collecting employment data, collecting some of that internship data that I had mentioned about Project Search, but here in the state of Maryland, Stacy is one of the Project Search statewide coordinators and has really helped to develop a system for all 14 of those Project Search sites to be collecting data on the interns each year and seeing how that affects employment outcomes longer term. And then kind of the last research avenue, as if we're not busy enough, has to do with our own longitudinal employment outcomes. So what we've been doing since the start of Project Search and Core Foundations is collecting all of our employment data, both for Project Search interns and for those Core Foundations community members who are in employment services. We've been collecting all of that into our cloud-based system called Apricot, and are hoping that in the upcoming years through IRB approvals that we will be able to create a research study that really shows what types of supports and services that we have put in place are successful for individuals with disabilities as they're both seeking employment, but also maintaining employment. So great question, Mark.
Thanks, Becca. Thanks for that information. Moving on, this question's for Tammy. Tammy, can you speak on how neurodiversity at work is making an impact with policy on a state and a federal level?
Sure, Mark. Thank you for the question. So I like to think of policy in three pieces: one at the federal level, the state level, and the local level. So I'm going to start at the federal level, where we work with partners across the country to create policy that is smart for people for inclusive workforce. We work with all throughout Kennedy Krieger and our partners to make this happen. At the state level, we have a very short legislative session here. It's only 90 days long. And in that 90 days, our legislators hear over 3,000 pieces of legislation. And our part in that is to work with our partners around the state to come up with policy that is driven for neurodiversity at work, also to support those for inclusive workforce. So we like to make sure that those policies and working with our legislators and others to make sure that the information that they're getting is accurate so that the policies that are created support our workforce. And then the third piece is the local part of that. And the local piece I talk about is, so at the Developmental Disabilities Administration, there's a lot of policy that goes into our waivers and how do we actually administer services. So we like to make sure that we are working with our partners across the state to ensure that those policies are put in place that accurately can make sure that we have an inclusive workforce, create opportunities for individuals, employers, and for those that support this work.
Awesome, thanks, Tammy. This next question is going to be directed at Tammy and Becca. What supports and services does Neurodiversity at Work offer to support individuals with disabilities and their families transition from school to adulthood?
So I'll start with transition consultations. So transition consultation is fairly new here at Neurodiversity at Work. We've been working on this for just the last few years, but this is to provide education and training to support the increase for families and professionals knowledge and understanding of the service delivery model, our funding systems, eligibility processes, application processes, in navigating this transition from school into adult services. Here at Kennedy Krieger at Neurodiversity at Work, we want to support families and individuals to make informed decisions about their futures and how they transition into community and employment services.
Thanks, Tammy. So just quickly to touch on another way that we help to bridge the gap from school to adulthood. Stacy has worked hard to develop what's called the Setting Students Up for Success training. And this training can be modified to, we've modified it for families, we've modified it for school personnel, we've modified it for employers. But really it talks about kind of what are the steps, or what are kind of the timelines that families and individuals should be focusing on leading up to graduation or exiting from high school. And then also kind of what are things that either school personnel can be doing, as well as what are things that other community members can be doing. And you know, I think that schools do a great job of talking about the transition process, and making sure that families are educated about, you know, the different channels that they'll have to navigate. But sometimes also hearing it from a different voice and through a different model helps to get those timelines to stick, and also to offer additional supports that individuals and families may not have known about. So back to you, Mark.
Thanks, Becca and Tammy. Tyler, as a recent graduate, can you speak on your experience transitioning from school to adulthood, and specifically how the Neurodiversity at Work team assisted you during that process?
Yeah, thank you, Mark, for the question. It's always nice to talk about this. So the way Neurodiversity at Work helped me transition was, first of all, when I was graduating from the Maryland School for the Blind, I was joining the project search team, and I made the decision, along with my parents and my family, and I thought that besides doing project search, it'd be good for me to take like 1 or 2 classes at the local community college each semester. So the way Neurodiversity at Work has been supporting me with that is they would ensure that I get my services like project search or core foundations, whatever it may be. I would do that for like 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days I would dedicate to my like school, like to my post-secondary education. And even to this day, like Neurodiversity at Work has been helping me with that, because as I highlighted earlier, like with my COVID screening position, I work full shifts, like 3 days a week. And then the other 2 days I've managed to work with infection control and Neurodiversity at Work to ensure that while I'm still working, I still want to have that college experience in too. So to me, what it means for transitioning is like people with disabilities, like whether they want to work full time or go to school part time or do a combination of both, like I guess the bottom line is that Neurodiversity at Work, like they're willing like to accommodate like everyone as best as they can. And like it's not always gonna. Sometimes it's not like a one fits all situation. Sometimes it involves compromising, like I had to do in my case. Like it's not a perfect match, but as long as you get a win-win situation and everyone is satisfied with the outcome, that's what really counts, like in my opinion. But just in conclusion, I would just say like that's just one way. That's just describes a way that Neurodiversity has helped me transition from my high school to career to my young adult career. Thanks again for the question, Mark, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks for providing your perspective and experience on that, Tyler. Becca, how is Neurodiversity at Work training future clinicians, educators, and direct support professionals?
Thanks, Mark. That is a great question. And so what we have done at Neurodiversity at Work to help teach future educators and clinicians about best practices for how to work with individuals with disabilities is that we have set up a trainee program. So since 2020, we have had 19 trainees who have worked with us through both our partnerships with UMBC, which is University of Maryland, Baltimore County, as well as the RISE program, which is a program that is a collaboration with Johns Hopkins University, where either individuals who are in their final year of high school or completing undergraduate credits are able to participate in that program. And what's really been great to see is that through these partnerships, where we are working hands-on with the trainees to give them the guidance and support to work with individuals with disabilities, we have been able to hire 4 of those trainees onto our staff. So I think that talks about not only the level of support that we provide in the training process, but also the type of environment that is here at Neurodiversity at Work. We are a very collaborative staff, and always willing to pitch in and help answer questions and problem solve. And in addition to these trainee programs and numbers that are listed on the screen, we also have been collaborating with local universities to take a more holistic approach of supporting our community members. And this really comes from a model that's based in school programs where individuals may be receiving speech and language services, they may be receiving occupational therapy services, physical therapy services. So we recently partnered with University of Maryland to bring on a speech language pathologist trainee who is going to be starting with us this January. We do not have a licensed SLP on our staff, so it's been really great to collaborate with another department at Kennedy Krieger, the Center for Autism-Related Disorders, to work out a robust program for their trainee so that they'll be able to not only work with our community members, but also receive the guidance and oversight from a licensed speech language pathologist. And I literally just got off the phone today with Towson University about having an occupational therapy trainee begin joining our team in 2024. And so they are looking for their students to be able to learn more about working with adults with disabilities, and also being able to fulfill some of those capstone credits. So it's really great to partner with these universities. Back over to you, Mark.
Becca, we did have a follow-up question that I know you can answer quickly. Are the trainee programs limited to specific fields or disciplines?
I'm going to say that answer is no, within reason, that we have been able to be flexible and creative with developing our trainee programs. I will say that for some of the specifics, like I mentioned, like speech and language oversight or occupational therapy, where they need that licensed oversight, we have to kind of partner with our fellow departments here at Kennedy Krieger, but in general, we have been able to make it work.
Thanks, Becca. And I'm going to kick it over to Stacy to kind of close us out with the next couple of slides here.
Yeah, and thank you to the Neurodiversity at Work team for really giving a great overview of all of our different programs and services. And what I think you can hear most is around collaboration, not just within our department, but across the Institute and our partners across the state and even nationally. And as we think about as we're moving forward, we want to talk to you about what you can do as the community to really focus on improving employment outcomes. You really want to educate yourself. We only gave you a very small snapshot of talking about the eligibility process, the Developmental Disabilities Administration, Division of Rehabilitation Services, all these words you heard us bringing up today, but really educate yourself to really understand what it means for a student, a young adult who's transitioning from school into adulthood. That transition happens 18 to 21, and it is the rest of their life that they are focusing on for meaningful engagement and employment. You want to be a role model. You want to think about your hiring practices within your organization and your management practices. Are they inclusive? Can you volunteer with organizations? Can you be on board with organizations, sit on their boards to learn more? The more awareness and training, the more people that know about this transition to adulthood and supporting young adults and adults in their life, it's only going to improve our community, and it's going to benefit all and continue making awareness. So if you're really interested in taking action and getting involved and really working with us more, we do have a business advisory council where if you are a business on this call and you want to join us, you could join our council. Helps us be ambassadors of the program, but also provides us understandings of trends of what's going on in the workforce. You could be a guest speaker, you could provide a tour, you could host a job trial, you could be a career mentor. You can also support our program by providing philanthropic support and making a donation as well. Lots of ways to get involved. So we have a lot of stories about community members. And this young adult here, he was a Kennedy Krieger High School student, was in Project Search in his final year of school. And then he transitioned into core foundations for employment services. Within 6 months, he had a job at Petco in retail, really his dream job. And almost over 3.5 years later, he is still employed at that same Petco. He had a really positive experience with his manager, and we've been able to support him through successes and challenges over the years. And coming up, really important, is our Neurodiversity in the Workplace National Conference. It'll be in March in DC. This will be our second annual of our larger conference, but really our third, because our first one was a half-day workshop. Registration is open. We have great speakers and presenters, and it's going to be an amazing 2 days of dynamic discussions, collaboration, and hearing from experts. And we're going to open it up to our questions now. And then if you want to learn more about our program, you can go to our website or scan the QR code on your screen.
We have been answering a few questions for those that have already asked some questions in the Q&A. But if you have additional questions, please drop it in the Q&A and we'll be sure to address those.
So I do see a few questions just for the group so that we can kind of share some of the answers with the group that's here. And then we have, is Core Foundations Adores an approved provider? And yes, that is, we are an approved provider through the Division of Rehabilitation Services. So Core Foundations, just to clarify, is long-term supports. So because it's long-term, we serve people for as many years as we choose or they choose to be working with us. Project Search is a 10-month transition to work program that we serve 8 to 10 individuals each year.
Stacy, a good question came in through the chat. Person is asking, what would you say to those with diagnoses often stigmatized by society, such as autism, who prefer not to self-disclose, despite this being a prerequisite to take advantage of neurodiverse hiring processes?
Yeah, self-disclosure is a great question, and it really is a personal choice. If your preference is not to self-disclose, then you'll go through the hiring channels through that organization and department like you would any other individual. And if you are looking to self-disclose, it can open avenues. It could take away some of the stress and the anxiety of the interview process, of the hiring process, of when you are hired, do you then want to go through the job accommodation process? So it's a really great question. It is a personal choice on if you choose to self-disclose or not self-disclose. And I agree that there can be positives and there can be challenges to self-disclosing. You have to do what is best for you. Here at Kennedy Krieger Institute, we welcome self-disclosure. We welcome supporting and matching talent to positions within our organization. We also know that there with other businesses that might not exactly be the same process. And we want to work with you and businesses to help in supporting and understanding inclusive employment and why, when someone self-discloses, it could really benefit the business and the job seeker.
Thanks, Stacy. This next question I'm going to direct at Becca. We have someone asking about looking for employment services close to home. This individual lives in Anne Arundel County, and asking if those services are available through Core Foundations and Project Search to support Anne Arundel County.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. That is a really great question. So in addition to taking a person-centered approach with our community members, you could also say that we take a neighborhood approach with our community members. So what we do is plan all of our employment services, community development services, and behavioral support services in an individual's home area. So for specifically thinking about employment supports and beginning with job development, whether you are in Anne Arundel County or you are in Pikesville or you are in Laurel, we are going to meet you likely at a library, a Panera, anywhere where we can get a good Wi-Fi signal for the most part, with our staff members to begin those employment services. And typically, you know, looking for jobs can be something that we do in an hour, can be something that we do in 2 hours. And then we might want to add in some of those community development services. So yes, absolutely, we can meet you where you are to provide employment services, community development services, and behavioral support services.
Thanks, Becca. And just to piggyback on that, the only exception to that would be our Project Search program, which is held at our main Institute campus in Baltimore City. It's still open to apply to those across the state, but that transportation would be of the responsibility of that individual to get to and from the programming each day. I have a question that I would like to direct at Tina as it pertains to some HR hiring practices. So someone asked, what are some tips on how to address the implicit bias towards those who have disabilities? As an example, they have a disability and it would be too hard to accommodate.
And is this from the perspective of the candidate?
I believe so.
And
So
Mark, can you repeat that question, please?
Yeah, so I believe they're asking how to address some of those biases that they might approach when applying for jobs that might be related to their disability.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's pretty critical to seek out employers that are inclusive. So that's really important first and foremost. I know that obviously, Kennedy Krieger, we go above and beyond, and many of our business partners go above and beyond to train their hiring teams and their recruiters. So that implicit bias is not a challenge, but for some organizations, it certainly can be.
Thanks, Tina.
Sure.
We have 2 more questions in the chat here that I'm going to pass over to Stacy. First, at what age can parents reach out to Neurodiversity at Work to discuss a possible spot for their child? And the same individual is asking a good tip for an employer to get started on a hiring program.
Yeah, great questions. So if you're interested in learning how to be inclusive employers, hiring individuals with disabilities, scan that QR code on your screen and reach out to us or email me. We'd love to work with you. We'd love to talk to you about our training model, facilitation model. We currently are working with businesses, even looking at their job descriptions and how can those be more inclusive and positions within their organization. So we offer a lot of support to the businesses to be just starting the conversation, providing some training to, we're going to work on those job descriptions and we're going to work on providing candidates from Maryland to support your hiring needs. And then the other question when we're talking about, when we think about what is a good time to talk with Neurodiversity at Work around our Core Foundations program or Project Search, you're really looking at 2 years prior to graduation and more in that springtime of that second to last year. That's really when you want to start thinking about applying, but you want to be thinking about adult services at 12, 13, 14, where you could really reach out to us and we can meet with you under our transition consultation service. It's never too early to be thinking about transition to adulthood, but when we're really thinking about our agency services, you want to look at 2 years before you are graduating school. So thank you, everyone. I'm going to pass it back to Linda now to close us out.
Thank you, Stacy. I want to thank Stacy and Becca and Mark and Tyler and Tamara and Tina for sharing your expertise and helping us learn more about the program and the efforts of Neurodiversity at Work here at Kennedy Krieger. I want to thank all of our donors and friends and supporters and new friends who have joined us for this call today. Again, we welcome your input on any of these topics. And if you're interested in learning more, please do not hesitate to reach out, as Stacy said, to each one of us. Thank you again, and we wish you a good evening. Take care.